How's it going, Kevin? Happy Tuesday.
What's going on, Garrett? Happy Tuesday.
Not too much. See, we have some exciting stuff to hit today with financial statements. Is that right?
Oh yeah, financial statements, all the fun stuff. Balance sheet, income statement. Yeah, no, should be good.
I love it. Well, let's jump right into it. It's 1 o'clock. Should we start with chart of accounts, then kind of go from there?
Yeah, so when you look at the financial statements in ProNovos, there's really two kind of different modules you want to kind of dial in on. One, as you would expect, is the financial statements module. But also what you want to consider is in the administrator, the chart of accounts. And if you've never actually used the financial statements in ProNovos, this is where you're going to want to start because what you set up in your chart of accounts is going to basically influence how the data gets aggregated on the financial statements module. So if you go to the chart of accounts, what you'll see is all of your accounts that sync from your accounting system. This is a demo account, so everything just says temporary account here. But if you were to go into your actual account, you would actually see the accounts that you would see or that you've set up as your GL accounts in your accounting system. And then what we try to do to kind of help you get started is based on how your accounts are set up in your accounting system, we're going to start to kind of automatically populate whether, hey, is it a balance sheet account? Is it an income statement account, asset, liability, income, expense? And then we'll even take it to these subcategories. So the financial statement, we know always what it's going to be. We can always populate that. Once you get to the category and the subcategories, this is really where you can kind of start to select it. So if you want to say, hey, this isn't an asset account, it's really a liability account, you could go in and change it, and then you can select the different subcategories and go down from there. Now, one question we get a lot is if you can customize these categories and subcategories. We do not allow you to customize them. It's going to basically be what's available in ProNovos. And the reason we do that is so when we aggregate the data on the financial statement module and calculate the different ratios, we can point to the different categories and make sure everything's calculating correctly, which we want to be able to do if the categories are custom. So I know you may say, hey, we want to make sure that you've got like this subcategory, but we try to be really thorough to make sure we list out everything that you would. So it may not always be a one-to-one, but chances are there's something that's probably pretty similar. And like I said, the reason we do that is just so we make sure that when we're calculating different metrics and values, we're doing it correctly and we're confident in the ultimate values.
Good to know. Yeah, I know we've had some custom tickets coming on, custom categories. So that's good to know in the future.
A couple other kind of small things on the chart of accounts here. We'll show you what your current trial balance for the account is. So this is another great one too. If you've never used anything on the financial statement side or on the GL side of ProNovos, if you just want to kind of say, hey, I want to make sure all the data kind of ties out with the accounting system, really easy to go in and check the trial balance. You can also use these filters here. So you can use the date filter here to say, all right, I'm going to look at what was my trial balance as of 12/31 of last year. And kind of same thing, you can filter on any of them here. So if you want to go in and say, I want to see all of my current asset accounts, you can filter that way to make sure you've got everything assigned appropriately. So especially if you've got, a pretty thorough chart of accounts in your accounting system where you've got hundreds of accounts, these filters are going to make it a lot more manageable to kind of go through and make sure everything's assigned to the proper categories. So that's the chart of account portion of it. So once you get the chart of accounts set up, the financial statements is really where you're going to want to spend a lot of your time. Now, this is a little bit different than some of our other modules. A lot of our modules have functionality where you're entering data, you're coming in, making notes. This is really for you to kind of just analyze your business. So what you'll see is there's kind of two portions to this. The top chart or top section is you have all these charts and KPIs. And then the bottom section is the actual financial statement. So bottom section, I'll start here. This is super straightforward. So it's going to be just your income statement and your balance sheet. Based on those categories that you assigned in the chart of accounts, we're going to summarize all the data accordingly. And then you can always export it out to Excel if you need to. One thing to call out here when you're looking at both the ratios and the actual financial statements down at the bottom is you can basically control the dates that you're looking at. So you can basically control it in two ways. One, you can change the date range. So if you want to go back all the way to 2019, if you have data going back that far, you can. Or if you say, hey, I just want to look at the last year, you can kind of update the date range to look at the last year. And then the one that I think is more important is this right here that allows you to basically toggle of, are you going to look at the date on a monthly basis, quarterly, or annually? When you load the financial statements, you'll see that it loads annually by default. So it'll give you your last 3 years, what your financial statements look like. I like looking at things on a quarterly basis, get a little more granular. Monthly, it's always nice to kind of see the trends, but it might not tell you the full picture if you're just looking at it month over month. But it's up to you. If you want to look at it across any of those 3 different time frames, you have that flexibility to do so.
Yeah, certainly. No, I mean, I see we have a lot of charts up here, a lot of different tabs to explore various numbers. Do you find certain areas that people see more value in than others?
Yeah, so the financial statements, I always think this is good information, but chances are, this is something you're probably getting in some other fashion today. Maybe there's already a report you can get from your accounting system that shows this. Where I think a lot of the value comes from are these ratios up at the top. So these are a lot of industry standard ratio. I shouldn't even say industry standard. There are a lot of just like basic finance ratios that really tell you a lot in terms of how your business is operating. So we actually partnered with a professor of construction financial management at Colorado State University to come up with the list of all these ratios, the formulas, the descriptions. So a lot of thought was in this in terms of saying, okay, what are some of the metrics that contractors are going to care most about that tells them the most about their business? And we've grouped it into 4 different categories. You've got your liquidity ratios, profitability ratios, leverage ratios, and managerial efficiency ratios. And on each of those different groups there, you'll see there's anywhere from 5 to 10 different ratios in each given category. And we try and make it as easy for you to digest this information as possible. So if you select a ratio and you hover over this tooltip here, it will give you the formula that we're using to calculate it. And again, this goes back to how you set up your chart of accounts and the categories that you assign. So this is why it's really important. Say, okay, I've made sure my GL accounts that are AR are assigned to accounts receivable. So when I look at my days in AR, it's taking into account all of those GL accounts. And then we also provide a quick description of what that ratio is actually telling you. And then my favorite part of it is you're going to see this trend line here that basically tells you how have I changed my performance on that ratio over time. And this is a question we get a lot from people is, hey, do you guys do any baseline when it comes to comparing how you're performing as a contractor to other contractors on these financial ratio metrics? And we don't do that today. And the reason we do that is what we found when we actually look at the numbers is a lot of these ratios and what is a good or healthy ratio is going to vary a lot if you are a billion-dollar GC in California versus if you are a $20 million, drywall subcontractor in Arkansas. So it's really tough to kind of say, hey, what's the industry standard for each of these ratios? What we have found really effective, though, is giving you a baseline compared to your previous performance. So you can start to see here, okay, how am I performing on these over time? Am I getting better? Am I getting worse? Is this a trend of other things that might come? So I can look at here at my current ratio and say, hey, going back to Q2 of 2023, I can see my current ratio has basically cut in half over the last 2.5 years. And what does that tell me about how I'm running my business? So it gives you a lot of how you can kind of compare and analyze your business internally, even if you might be very different from what these ratios might look like for another contractor.
I like the trends and how you can zoom in and get more granular at the bottom there with those bars. It's cool.
Yep, yeah, and this is going to work the same way as the financial statements down at the bottom. If you want to look at a different date range, look at it monthly or annually instead of quarterly, you can do that as well. You also notice that some of these formulas will update based on what you select here. So for example, days in AR, I'll use that as an example again. Right now, we're multiplying the accounts receivable by 90 days and dividing by revenue because we've selected quarterly. If I change it to annual, it's then going to multiply it by 365 and divide it by revenue. So we've made sure all these ratios are updating based on what you select above. So it's a really good way to kind of analyze your business. It may not be the tool in ProNovos you use on a daily basis or even a weekly basis, but I definitely encourage you to get in there at least once a month, and quarterly at a bare minimum, and kind of see, okay, what do not only my financials look like, but also what do these different ratios look like, and what's that full picture that it's telling me about my business.
Very cool. Let's see. Anything we haven't touched on yet? I know it's a little more straightforward than other ones because we're just, we're digesting data. It's not really entry or alteration, anything like that. So
Yeah, no, those are the big ones. I mean, like you said, Garrett, this one's a little more straightforward than some of the other modules and tools in ProNovos. Maybe the only other thing I'll say is, like I said, we've got probably 30 ratios in here that you can use and track. Um, Most likely, all 30 aren't going to be relevant to you. Maybe there's a couple things based on your type of business. Maybe you're very equipment heavy and asset turnover is really important to you. So really just, try not to be like, okay, let's maximize for all 30 of these ratios. Just take a handful and say, okay, here are the 4 or 5 that really care about, or that we really care about and really tell us how we're performing, and just start to zero in on those and make sure that, okay, you understand those, what they're telling you, and are you taking the necessary steps to try and improve on them. But that's all I got for you, Garrett.
oh, no, it's good to know a lot of data in a short amount of time, but pretty straightforward. And we still have a few minutes here, so I'll leave the floor open to some questions and hang around till 1:13, 14, 15. And if not, thanks everyone for your time today. We appreciate it.
I don't see any questions coming through, Garrett, so I think we might be good to call it.
Great. Well, we'll call it a day, and we will see everyone back in 2 weeks where I think we're talking about punch lists and issue tracking. So we'll get into the ops manager side of things and go from there.
Very cool. Thanks, Garrett.
Yep. Have a good day, all. Bye.